Hello and welcome. I'm Martin Groschwald, CEO of Konzepthaus. What you're about to see and hear is one of 12 panel talks from our Mobility Design Conference 2025 at the Munich Motor Show, where we brought together leading voices from design, technology, and mobility to explore the future of our industry. In this session, you'll hear fresh perspectives and valuable insights straight from our stage. Let's dive in.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, Konzepthaus, for hosting this. Thanks, Martin. Thanks, everyone, and the team. Thanks for bringing us all together. Thanks all to you joining us here on this early morning on Monday. Our session is called The Future of UX Design in the Car, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. How experience design is really reshaping cars, brands, but also organizations. My name is Christian Eckert. I've been in the space of experience design for the last 25 years across OEMs, EV startups, and consultancies. And to be honest, the last 25 years with that shift to software-defined vehicles were exciting, but I think the next 25 years are going to be absolutely mind-blowing. And that's why I'm very excited that I can talk about this today with 4 mega experts from the industry. Just a quick introduction. So I have Derek Jenkins here, SVP of Design and Brand at Lucid Motors. You've been really shaping some of the most distinctive luxury EV experiences in the space, and before the Mazda as well. Next to Derek, we have Florian Teufel from Deer Street. Florian really advises design studios and organizations on many things, but also how to set up and integrate creative departments. So that will be a big topic of today, of course, not just what UX is, but how you design and create for that in organizations. Philipp Römers, Global Head of Design at Polestar, a very exciting brand, for me at least, I can admit. Under your leadership, really, Polestar has built a huge reputation for, I would say, clarity and coherence. And I'm excited to see a little bit more how you develop that and vision it across digital and physical today. And last, but certainly not least, Ruben Rodriguez Bosch, Head of UX UI Design at Seat and Cupra. And Cupra already has a very distinct brand identity as well, which is very interesting because you are in a big network of a group as Volkswagen Group. So it will be interesting to see how you create something unique on such a big shared platform. I want to get it started with a little warm-up by asking you, each one of you, a short warm-up question. And that's really how you personally set the stage for UX and how you see UX personally, but maybe also how you see it in your organization. So Derek, I would start with you here. So obviously Lucid is known for really pushing the boundaries in luxury EV and luxury mobility, I would say. So from your perspective, how do you define UX personally, but also in this context of building a new brand?
Yeah, I think very early on, we knew that Lucid had to have a very strong card in the game around the user experience. I think being software defined was the goal from day one. I started with the company in 2015, so a big priority on that overall experience. I think probably the biggest thing is just keeping the UX and UI experience very close to design. In our case, it's in design, but at the same time, we're partnering closely with our colleagues in software, the same way we would with the vehicle design and engineering. I think defining that emotional experience is a critical part of what we do, whether that's the experience of interaction, the interplay between physical controls and digital controls is a huge part of it. But what I find more and more is just more about defining the brand experience itself. And that's where the majority of our energy is going, where we can make the Lucid in-car experience, also outside the car, something unique. And usually that has to do with feature sets. It has to do with specific experiences that are maybe not prevalent in the cars today, but that will be in the near future. So the majority of our energy now is going towards that as we've laid the foundation of core functionality.
So building on that, Florian, we just heard that in Lucid, UI UX is part of the design team. It's not always the case. So how do you advise organizations, OEMs, when thinking about UX? And also, what's a big misconception when integrating UX? And I also know, by the way, of course, UX can be the whole user experience, and sometimes it's just UX design, but we can totally talk about this later today as well. But if you think about UX as a whole, and also specifically digital experience, what's a big misconception? How do you advise organizations?
So the first point, what is integration? On the paper, you have processes and structure within an organization, and many teams think if you have this on paper, it works. But from my experience, you need this kind of a vision, and it's a people's game. You have to talk, you need a vision, an end-to-end vision, not only from the hardware nowadays, from the software, from the service as well, to bring this in a concept, to tell the story, and then work together. And then you don't need this organization topic to be discussed, because you have this vision you work for, and you have the communication between the C-level or any big hierarchy topics. They talk to each other and have the same understanding what they want to achieve. And I think, of course, the first step is the structure and process, but later on, the vision and the communication is a key when you build the car or anything else with this kind of experience from end to end.
You've mentioned shared vision, which I think is very important. So Philipp, obviously Polestar, we talked about it earlier a little bit, has a very cohesive brand experience already. The car, the brand marketing, very cohesive. So how do you achieve that cohesive experience in UX? Where does UX start and end in your world to create such a consistent experience across these different touch points?
Yeah, I think there are two reasons. First of all, Polestar is a design-driven company. That's also one of the reasons why I'm very, very happy now to be at Polestar, because design plays a super important role. We are on executive level, directly reporting to the CEO. And of course, everybody in the company knows that design is super important and listens to us, And then I think the second reason for this consistency is that we also have in design the full responsibility for UI and UX. It's the same like at Lucid. And of course, that's why UX gets lots of attention. I mean, there's still a way to go, and it's all about collaboration. The outside experience is still under digital. But we are a small brand, and as I said already, there's a deep culture of collaboration, so there are short ways, and this works pretty well, I have to say.
Yeah, that makes totally sense. And I think it's maybe different, or not, Ruben. Obviously, Cupra especially has changed a lot over the last years, I would say. And in the exterior design, interior design, but also UX, UI, you created a sharp new brand image. New brand, actually, almost. How do you achieve that in a world where you have a huge platform within the Volkswagen Group, you have Cariat, you have all these big platforms that you have to work with or not? How can you still ensure as much as possible that Cupra is Cupra and has its own identity?
The thing is that you may think that since we are sharing platforms, we are sharing parts, we are sharing software in the group, that maybe goes against uniqueness, probably. Our brands are not being that unique because many of the parts are similar. But I see it the other way around. We are more efficient. We are unique and more efficient. For example, I'm going to put it in a very simple way. For example, when it comes to software, we all know, probably we have a common understanding on how a media player should be or how a phone dialing should be. Why the 10 or 12 brands that we have in the Volkswagen Group, we should create or work on different media players for our different brands. We do it all together because it makes total sense. I mean, we can, of course, you can reinvent the wheel even in a media player, but it makes more sense maybe to put your efforts and your capacity in building your brand, building your identity. And that's what we do. So we do the things that are, let's say, more simple. They are not that simple, but these simple things, we do it in a more efficient way, and then we put all our efforts on differentiating our brands between each other, but also with the competitors.
That makes a lot of sense. And I do think it is actually an advantage in that space. So now that we heard like 4 perspectives from each of you, kind of how you see of UX and see it in the different organizations, I want to zoom out a little bit and look at user experience and an industry level. Do you think we have a common understanding on what user experience design is and how to develop for a great user experience? And if not, is this a problem or is it an opportunity?
You mean industry-wide?
In the automotive world, yes.
Yeah, I feel like the car industry is still struggling with this. Personally, just obviously we do a lot of benchmarking and we experience a lot of different vehicles, but I just feel like it's not found a kind of consistent groove across the industry, maybe that other consumer devices has. So there's a lot of inconsistent experiences, menu structures, audio players, whatever the case may be. I think we still struggle with the basics in a lot of ways as an industry. Obviously, there's brands that have that more under control than other brands, but I think it's something that it's still ever evolving. I think part of the reason that's so difficult is because the landscape is always evolving. The in-car layout, screen architecture, fully digital, fully analog, a combination of both. I think all of this is still kind of like evolving, and then there's even been a lot of backlash against a full digital experience, and so that kind of changes the landscape, and I think each brand is trying to figure out what that experience should be. I think that it will settle over time, and certain things will just become commonplace the way they were before everything became touchscreen experiences. But right now, I think it's an interesting period of transition, and it dictates the aesthetic of interiors. So how many cars have to have the Tesla layout? Does it have to be every single vehicle on the road? I would argue not.
Maybe can I add something? I mean, I would absolutely agree to your point. But I think there is a certain progress, I mean, when I started back in the days at Volkswagen 20 years ago, UX was kind of the UI, and this was part of the interior, this was a sub-department. And then this changed already within the last years, and UX became on eye level with interior, exterior, and CMF. And now it's about the full responsibility, and of course the young brands maybe have a certain benefit here because there's already this awareness about UX, and but this is maybe, especially on big OEMs, the challenge, to reach this awareness. No?
Yeah, I would like to add maybe 2 thoughts on this. Yes, I think we all have a common understanding on where we begin. No, probably software is clear, it's our responsibility, but we don't know where UX ends, where our responsibility ends. Is on the interior with the switches, or is it what happens when you go to the exterior? Do we have something to say on the exterior or not? Or even beyond about the functions, is when the door is opening and closed, it should be our responsibility to define that experience or not. So probably we have different understandings that in our different companies. No? That was about opening that discussion about where ends our responsibility, or where.
Here I would like to add another dimension. So from my point of view, in the old world, we have the hardware nowadays combined with the software. But I think the whole customer experience from end to end, you have to add the layer of services as well. So how is my experience within a dealership when I use the app, when I bring my car to the service, etc. So here, from my point of view, this is not an end-to-end experience. So if I look at the exhibitions now or the world premieres of all the cars, the last couple of days, it was focused on hardware and software, but no service. And I think this is very important in the future to, especially with a young generation, to bring here a lot of new traction to the products, not only hardware, software, really add services or any other touch points the younger generation have with the products.
If I could add just one thing. Also, how much of us as an industry settling into a groove, how much of that is just the general car consumer getting used to a digital experience? What I mean is, like, when the smartphone first came out, there were 5 or 6 different ways that smartphones menus worked, right? And the broader population wasn't used to that yet until there became 1 or 2 leaders, and then the general logic and flow of information became consistent. We're just now getting into that phase with the car, where the broader consumer base is getting used to a digital interaction. The models start to become similar and consistent for more mundane experience, the mundane interaction. And so there becomes kind of like, oh yeah, it works like this. And I think we're in the middle of that, or partway through that.
Sorry,
Please go ahead, of course.
I'm going to be a bit provocative, but is that good or not? Because going back to identity, so if we are all doing the same, we are going to basically provide the same product when it comes to experience. Of course, the design will be different.
Sure.
But how then we differentiate the experience that we are providing?
Yeah, I totally agree. I just think the differentiator isn't how does a heater control work, or how does that, you know what I mean? Because if you think about analog cars, everybody had dial heaters. Everybody could get in and figure out how that would work. And then if it became more push button, then people would get pissed off about that and like, oh, and then iDrive came along and so on and so forth. So I feel like the mundane things are going to get into a groove where even my mom can still figure it out. It's the other stuff that's out beyond that, the other experiences that get brought, are hopefully going to get brought into vehicles that are truly stand out and differentiating. That I think that's when it gets interesting. So we don't have to have arguments about audio setups and stuff like that.
I mean, that's just to add. I mean, it's also the case when you're talking about exterior and interior. There are so many requirements out there which are limiting you. But then it's kind of super important to have a clear brand identity and brand vision, and in order to envision this in the design, So it's the same challenge as for all the other departments as well.
I think it's really interesting because, just from my own perspective, I used to live in LA until like a few months ago, and we needed, I think, at least 3 cars for 2 people, even though we have robo-taxis and scooters and stuff. And now we live in Munich, and obviously we have a totally different infrastructure, and we do car sharing. We don't own a car anymore at all. I do car sharing on a daily basis, and that means the interface, the UX, UI, the HMI, you have to get in and start driving immediately, which works for steering and accelerate and those things. But the digital experience, to your point, is always completely different. So like I cannot even like start figuring out anything. I just use my CarPlay, unfortunately. So I don't even see that brand anymore most of the time. I can drive the car, I can change the volume, I can change the temperature. But the amazing, huge digital ecosystem, I often don't even have the time to figure out. So I'm thinking, if you speak about standardization or not, where would you then see to transition into also what you've mentioned? Like, where do you see UX, UI, the digital experience live in an OEM ideally? Because it could be within design, it can also be within engineering. When I started BMW 20 years ago, I was actually every year in a different department, even at marketing and brand at some point. So, because nobody knew what this is. So is there, from your perspective, an ideal setup? Or is that something that really depends on your brand or your organization? Maybe.
Yeah.
Florian.
No, Florian.
Okay. The first thing I would say is that I don't think it's that important where it is. It's more about what you were saying about, or even Florian, about the consistency of the journey. So what is what we have to achieve? We want our customer to have a nice journey. They don't see that, they shouldn't see that the mobile app is being done by a team and then the car is being done by another team. That is what we have to achieve. A clear and consistent UX, UI across all the digital platforms. No? How we achieve it? Of course, if you have it in your department, it's easy for you. But I think when it comes to on a company level, you just need a good governance, a good process between all the departments. I mean, good collaboration. I have always tried, or I have always worked within teams that UX was split in different departments, and it works. I mean, of course, you can always improve the product, but it works. I mean, why we should bring all together to one team? Doesn't matter if it's design or another department.
If I'm allowed to add something, I think it's as you said, about collaboration, and I think designers are kind of emotional normally, and that's why maybe the UX part should be located in the design. But on the other hand, you need also proof of concept, and of course it should be kind of doable what you are doing there, and so you need also on the other hand kind of a collaboration to R&D again, you know, and it should be really a back and forth and a strong collaboration between both departments, and then I think it's kind of okay, you know. But yeah, that's in my opinion the way to go.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it a lot like the vehicle itself. You know, as a design department for exterior, interior design, your partner is the engineering team, right? So you can't achieve great design without having a really effective partner in engineering. And I think it's a similar relationship between kind of the UX, UI, and the software team. If those two groups aren't working together, understanding each other, that's when the separations start to happen and things don't get executed the way you want. But I definitely feel strongly that UX, UI in design is critical. And the reason for that is you trust the design department to be this kind of emotional core of the brand, right? And the digital experience is like literally how you operate the vehicle and all the features. So if done well, that can be a really branded, emotional experience that hopefully is also easy, is not a kind of challenge to operate. And I think if you build a balanced team that is both doing great UI and aesthetics that are branded and fit with the rest of the interior, as well as something that's very thoughtful and usable, that's your best chance to give, I think, consumers a good experience overall, a balanced experience.
I agree.
I think totally agree. From my point of view, I would think more in a kind of use cases, like Christian described, when you have a shared car. How about the interaction? Because then I need a quick access to the car. I have to change the seat and the mirrors, and this has to be intuitive or like the learned pattern in the past. And then if I see some cars where I have to study under which submenu I can change now my mirrors or the seat, then there is a bad experience because it doesn't work. Because for me, the experience has to work and I have not to think about it in a way. It has to be an intuitive interaction with a human, with the machine or with a car. And I think here it's very important to think about this where to play. To say, is the ultra designed UI worth the money? Will the consumer client pay for it? Or is it more the bigger topics? Is it a shared mobility? Is it a private owned car? All these topics, because from my personal point of view, when I see all the shared cars in the city, everybody is using CarPlay or Android Auto. No one will pay the development for a beautiful UI. And I think here's a huge gap, especially in the shared mobility sector, regarding using a car as a daily private-owned vehicle or as a shared mobility with other in my neighborhood or within a city.
At Konzepthaus, we love bringing people together. From big conferences like the Mobility Design Conference or our House of Automotive, to more intimate and relaxed gatherings such as Pistons and Pretzels, we're all about creating spaces where people with a strong passion for mobility and design can connect, get inspired, and exchange ideas that shape the future of mobility. Check out our upcoming events at konzepthaus-consulting.com.
Building on top of that, I was wondering, maybe also be a little bit provocative, but do you think we need, or we're going to see more digital design leaders becoming or growing into a role of head of design at a car company in the future? Now, obviously, and it worked fine. But we have a lot of experts, leaders coming from a background in automotive design, exterior, interior, color, material, maybe. Do you think, and we see it in certain departments already, but not really yet, do you see there will be in the future, 5, 10, 25 years, a world where we have, actually digital leadership with the digital background and then running design departments in automotive? Who wants first?
Yeah, Derek.
But I think we have to say something, no?
Yeah. Can we just
not-
no comment?
Provocative again.
That's a tough one. I guess it depends. I mean, I definitely think that the digital experience is rising in terms of importance. I think, especially when you talk about electrification and the broader connected car experience, you can see that certain things are going to become ubiquitous. And so the digital experience is obviously a huge, huge differentiator. And if a company were to go all in and commit to that, it's just it's hard to imagine that a person coming in purely from a software and a digital experience standpoint, flipping and also having full oversight of the hardware itself, the physical car. For me, that seems like a little bit of a stretch, but anything's possible. Yeah.
I would say, can I step in? Okay. I think it really depends if you are in a budget environment, robo-taxis and so on and so forth, or in a premium segment. I think there's a huge difference. Yeah. Maybe the customers in the lower segments don't care at all how the car looks from exterior and interior perspective, And but if you are working in the premium segment, I think still that the car has a certain relevance. And again, the first thing you see, even now when I'm following the news for all the IAA cars, the first thing you see is the exterior design still, And then if you are attracted by the exterior design, you have a closer look. And then, of course, in the long run, also the UX, the user experience has to work,
I have a completely different opinion on that. I'm the guy coming from UX. But I think it was you, Philipp, that said at the beginning that UX was part of interior, and then it has been growing and moving. Now it's a department on the same level. And I think that UX will keep growing and changing and evolving towards the point that probably at some point it will be the first thing that you design in a company is the experience that you want to provide. And then you start building the product, the hardware for that experience. Today is more the exterior is the first thing that you do, but that can change in the future.
No, what do you see?
What you see?
I just said what.
Yeah. But,
not what you do.
But I'm saying that is what I'm saying. Today, when we work, at least in my company, exterior is always the main thing that, in order to define, portfolios, type of products, you work with exterior. No, but maybe that changes in the future because the customer is also changing. The next generations, the younger generations, they are looking more for experiences than for products itself. No, because of the sharing, there will be more sharing, etc., etc. In that moment in time, maybe there is the world is changing and the heads of design start becoming or coming from the digital world, and I don't see that really far away from now. So maybe in the next years we can start seeing some head of design coming from the digital world.
So everybody here is safe. That's good to know for now. Florian.
Yeah, for me, it's a person who's open for new things and to discuss about new things and has the understanding about software and other topics, because it's mainly extrovert driven, but then you have to understand the software topic and the service topic as well. So to see, like you said, Derek, discuss about buttons, physical, digital. Let's discuss about this to orchestrate all these different work streams when it comes to hardware topics and software topics and the service topic as well. And the communication person who is able to tell the story, not only for the exterior interior, for the whole product or the whole brand. I think this will be very important because you have teams and they can execute the vision the head or the director, the C-level have in common. And I think that's a very good question. And I'm curious to see if we have in the future anybody else as a design director or head of design coming from maybe color materials. I don't know, to say how can you for a premium in a premium segment can translate any wood into a digital world. How is this even? Is this possible? And if yes, how would you do this to bring this luxury, ultra luxury, in any digital experience as well?
I think that's a perfect segue into where I want to dive a little bit deeper, which is the future of experience, really in mobility and automotive specifically. And you've mentioned CMF, which I think is super interesting because I really believe that digital and physical, they become this ambient experience layer in the interior. So maybe it is actually, yes, someone from CMF. Or those traditional siloed disciplines disappear completely and we come up with something new also possible. But if we now think about, ahead if you look into the next 10, 15 years with AI, obviously, radically changing not only how we develop and design those experiences, but also how people expect experiences and products to be and to feel them. How is that going to change not only the product, but maybe also how a organization needs to be set up accordingly? If you think about generative AI, sensoric interfaces, and just more intelligence in general. Maybe, Philipp, you want to go first?
Yeah, of course. I mean, AI changes obviously a lot in terms of process. I mean, not just talking UI UX in general. I think still the creative part is not replaced by AI, but it's a good base. It makes things much faster, I would say. And still, you have to have something in mind, and in order to reach your goal. And of course, also mixed reality and all these things, just make the process faster, easier, and also more cost efficient. And there's a big use of it, obviously, and everything gets faster. And maybe you can be even more creative and explore more things, which maybe before not possible because of cost reasons or time reasons even.
I would add more on focus on the UX part. I think this is or looking at AI on the last year that has evolved from nothing to, a lot going on. It's the first time that I believe that touch screens can maybe disappear and AI will enable, for example, voice recognition for the first time as something that is a good interaction. No? I can imagine voice first. Or going beyond touch screens. No? So, and if that happens, that will lead to big changes on the interior design. So many interior designers will be really very happy on starting to remove some displays and being able to create new types of interior designs, thanks to AI, probably.
And then you also don't have the problems anymore in your rental cars, because everything is already set up, that has definitely an impact.
Totally agree. So for design teams in the early stage to visualize ideas and concepts, I totally see the AI, but I'm not seeing anything else bringing all the work streams together. Be it hardware, software, service, I think this will not happen. And then, of course, large language models will hopefully support my interaction with any, be it a car or the app in the future, to see what is my current need and what do I want from the car or from the shared mobility car I have. And I think this will be a big topic in the future.
Yeah, I think you brought up a great point. Like, I think, right, you don't set out to design a car interior without figuring out your display format and where they're going, how big are they. We've been on this kind of screen wars now for several years, and you can go see that at the show tomorrow. But I think the AI and natural voice is about the only thing that can break that paradigm and maybe bring the screens down in size or even potentially eliminate screens and go back to more analog interactions. But I'm super excited about that because, anytime some technology becomes so ubiquitous, the aesthetic becomes ubiquitous, which you can already see that in play, and that kind of a natural interaction could really bring a new, fresh take on vehicle interiors. So that's super exciting. In addition to that, I just see the AI experience. If you haven't done this already, just have a conversation with ChatGPT on your commute to work and what information you can gather, but just by speaking while driving is remarkable. So that unlocks a whole variety of potential, even branded experiences that are unique to a given brand, powered by AI. And I think that's when things can get really interesting.
Yeah, it's super exciting. And we can see that already, I think, also in mobile devices and desktop computers where the OS is changing radically. You had apps, you have little funny buttons, but this might change completely with generative interfaces, I believe. And maybe some people in the audience are thinking about getting into that space. If you think about the next 5-10 years, and I know AI is going fast, so predictions are tricky and getting more tricky and tricky, actually. But if you think about team setups and expertise people need, are you thinking of different people you would hire in your teams? I'm thinking of game design, fashion, architecture, emotion, even therapists, because you create like an emotion in your car, basically. So it's basically two questions. One is, are you thinking already about different skill sets that you might need in the future in your design teams? And is there something where if I would be at the beginning of my career and I want to get into that space, are there certain things I should be already focusing on?
It's an interesting question. Also, having a son and a daughter, I have to advise them one day what to study. But of course, it's always difficult to predict. I think flexibility is kind of key. You have to be super open-minded. You said it before, and be aware of new technology and test things out and use it for your thoughts. Difficult to predict.
I mean, just to add one comment on that. Is in the last 5 years, I think when it comes to creating UX, we have changed the way we work every year. Like Photoshop, Sketch, Figma, Motion, 3D, and now is AI. I don't know in 5 years, but it's what he says. I mean, flexibility and be open to new technologies. Programming. I would say AI definitely. AI is something that we have to be all familiar with.
So I see the role for prompt engineer within design departments. So I don't know, located within operations, everybody has access to these guys, and I want to have or visualize this and that. Can you help me to translate these ideas into very fast communication, visualization of ideas to show it to you guys or to the C-level? I think this. I know the software constraints and all the data protection and IP topics, but I think this would be very beneficial to tell the story in an early stage and not to work too much on something. Maybe it's at the end unworth it. And I think that could be any idea of a skill set for the future within design teams or in every team.
Yeah, inevitably, I always think about, like, with AI as a tool for the in-car experience, it opens up all these opportunities around charging, around navigation, around trip planning, around productivity, around entertainment, family road trips. Like, it's kind of unlimited. So to me, it's like when you talk about what's the future of UX, to me, it's more about how do you conceive features and functionality using this seemingly unlimited tool. And how do we still make that a good experience while driving? I feel like we're kind of in this new frontier as we finalize audio and climate control operation. Now it starts all over again with this new kind of experience that I think nobody ever expected to be in the car.
Well, especially now when you all design for cars that you drive, but you also design for cars where you're being driven in, right, more and more. So I think that's an interesting one where the interface, of course, has to be completely different. And maybe it's less about a skill set, more a mindset that needs to change in the future, right? Like you always have to learn, nothing is certain, and that's just, have to stay curious and keep exploring. As we talk more about the future, really, how do you think loyalty to a brand or a product is going to change over the next 10 years, when maybe in the past it was a strong brand, it was a strong quality that you had in your physical product, how the car, drives, feels, how reliable and so forth. Now that we have a more digital mobility era, maybe more an experience-defined vehicle era, how do you think loyalty of customers might change? Or do you see this already happening? Or where do you see this becoming more important in the future? Who would start, Florian?
I was just thinking about, for example, in Germany, we are very proud of our brands. But I'm not quite sure what is the tipping point, as in the past people bought in Tesla. Was it the price? Was it the software? And nowadays, why they stick some stickers on the car? I bought this before Elon went crazy. So I think this, I don't have any clear answer on this. But I think the young generation, they don't have this loyalty aspect, because maybe they don't have this experience with an old 911 or anything else. Or with a Quattro from Audi or any other thing, branding topic my parents or I had. Because I see it going down to the product and not the loyalty. So if you have a good product, you will sell it. And not you have a medium product and you will sell it through to loyalty. I don't think this will happen, but let's see.
Yeah, I mean, if I can step in, I would agree it's changing, but I think it's still like splitted in the worlds. In China, maybe there is no brand loyalty at all anymore, especially when it comes to electric cars and modern cars. But that's quite different maybe in Germany. But then it's, again, quite different in the segments. In the lower segments, I also think so. It's just about the price and everything is easy. In the premium segments, it's completely different. And I think then it's about, as what you said, about the experience and what does the brand stand for, the values of the brand. Is it does the brand have a clear direction, a clear message, and then I think the people want to be part of this community, and then it becomes a culturally relevant brand, and people stick to the brand. I think premium is a bit different compared to budget segments.
I would only add that buying a car, it has been always an emotional decision, and I think it will keep being that way. Maybe it will change because new generations, they see products in a different way. I agree with that as well. But it's an emotional purchase, and brand identity, values, all this is important. Even for car sharing. Probably there are different levels of car sharing, and you want to have a premium car sharing, or you don't care because you just need to go to from A to B, and then you choose that because of the style of the product. But I think emotionality is definitely something relevant in the decision in the future.
Yeah, I think it's a good point, Ruben. It is still designed for humans, not for robots yet. So I think the emotion, Derek, that you also mentioned often, I think is super important. Did you want to add to this?
I kind of agree with everything. I think that my optimistic side says that as things become more digital and experience-based, it's an opportunity to make it even more emotional and make it even more of a branded experience. So it's like, I feel like I don't feel like that goes away. I feel like a brand, whether it's a known brand or it's an entirely new brand, it becomes known for something, and that's what viscerally people are like, oh, I want that brand, because it's maybe they don't even rationalize it, but it's like, I'm a sporty guy, I'm going to buy a BMW or whatever, you know what I mean? And it's like, and I think even Tesla achieved that in the early days, and I think that's not going away. We just have even more tools to make it even more apparent what a given brand stands for through experience,
So then if you look into the next 5 years, because 10 is maybe too far, where do you see, regardless of organizational challenges, maybe in process challenges, where do you see a biggest opportunity to create a user experience that differentiates a brand from another brand? Anything maybe that is already happening, or maybe something new that you see on the horizon?
I can say something. I think in the next 5 years we will finally reach that point, that baseline where we more or less all the basics are all in place, like what you were saying about the climate control or the basics when it comes to interaction on the screen, and we will start building experiences beyond the software. Because it's right now it's highly focused on, or we have been in the last years all trying to catch up when it comes to functionality. This is what we have been focused on. No? We have to offer this, we have to offer that. I think in the next 5 years we will go beyond that, and we will start thinking about offering a concrete experience that will build on our identity, on our brand values, and we will offer different experiences in different brands. Like Cupra will offer an experience that driving a Cupra is, is very sporty, very emotional, very technological. And then another company is a different thing. So the next 5 years, we will see a lot of that, I think. We'll go beyond the basics, or the functionalities.
Nothing to add.
Florian, you have something?
I think the challenge will be to bring all these loose ends together. So I personally don't think experience is just a big screen. So we have a good supplier for huge screens. Let's put it there. I think you have to connect all the hardware and software topic and then the service, and then tell the right story. I think this will be then the experience of the future.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching this session from the Mobility Design Conference 2025 as part of the Munich Motor Show 2025. I hope you found some inspiration and new ideas about where mobility design is heading in the future. If you'd like to see more talks from the conference, make sure to subscribe to the channel and stay tuned. There is more to come.